Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for our Health Links webinar. My name is Michelle Hahn, and I am the Program Manager for Health Links, and I get the pleasure of working with our community partners and vendors and businesses across the state to put together these monthly webinars so that we can provide your organization with more tools and resources to help you build a culture of health, safety, and well-being for your employees. I'm looking forward to our presentation today that will cover what seems to always be a hot topic for anyone, which is stress. And I think no matter what you do, where you work, where you live, stress is inevitable and something that we always seem to find in our lives. And it can be good at times, but we don't ever want to get to the point of being overwhelmed and burnt out. And so that's what our presenter will help us navigate today and how to balance that. Before I introduce her and hand things over, I just wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping items for you. We are going to keep everybody on mute throughout the presentation. That helps limit any noise feedback and technical glitches. So if you have a question or need to respond to a question that our presenter has for you today, please feel free to type those in the chat box or the questions box in your control panel, which should be on the right-hand side of your screen. I'll be helping navigate those and we'll ask Amy directly questions on your behalf. So continue to use that, and then we'll also save time at the very end of our presentation today to answer any last-minute questions that you have. We will be recording this session, and we will be sharing the link with all of you tomorrow after the webinar is completed. So if you really like the information, want to go back through the slides, or just have the contact information for our presenter, that will all be included in the follow-up email. So be on the lookout for that, and feel free to share that with other people. With that, let's get started. I would love to introduce our presenter for today. Amy Lieberman is a certified integrative health coach and is very passionate about inspiring others to bring about change in their own lives through self-care and behavior change. Today, she will be helping us explore how to overcome overwhelm, anxiety, and stress, and will leave us with some practical tools and advice that we can use in our own lives after the presentation. I'm obviously not an expert in stress management, so I'm just going to stop talking and hand it over to Amy so that we can get started. Amy, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. This is Amy. I am, like Michelle said, a health and wellness coach, and I'm really excited to be part of the Health Links network to share my experiences and tips and tricks to manage stress, to feel better, and to be better. So today, my presentation is how to overcome overwhelm, how to manage stress and go from anxious to more awesome at work. And for some reason, there we go. So this is going to be good, I promise. I've been giving this presentation in person for the past few weeks, and I've had really good feedback. So I encourage you to pay attention, turn off your phone, close out of email, other tabs. One of the reasons we're often so stressed out and overwhelmed is because we're not focusing on one thing, and we're letting distraction take over. So reduce your distractions, get focused, and actually one of the exercises that we're going to be doing today is a breathing exercise that will help you become more calm. And so by the end of this webinar, you're actually going to feel better than you do right now. So I'll start with that. So I wanted to know, and I thank Michelle for helping me navigate the control panel and the questions that come up. How many of you today often feel like you have too much to do and not enough time? Just text in yes or raise your hand. How many feel like you're stretched in too many directions? That you're frustrated and impatient and unsatisfied? or that you feel like you can be having more impact? I saw some hands.
Yes, there are lots of people saying yes.
Yes. Okay. So you are not alone. 75% of American adults find that stress from their job is their number one source of stress. And when they add that stress from work to the stress of being a parent or a homeowner or relationship stress, it starts to feel pretty hard. And life can feel really strained in the day-to-day. And we feel like we have little control, but so many demands put on us. So today, I'm here to help. And what we're going to do in this webinar is to help identify your stress patterns. What is stress for you, and how does it manifest? We can't fix what we can't identify. So we're gonna get some clarity around what your stress patterns are. And then we'll talk about mindfulness. We'll do this breathing exercise that I think is going to blow your mind. It's really powerful and so simple. And then we'll talk about a little time management, our to-dos, our lists. I'll explain what strategic quitting is. I think it's the secret sauce to stress management. And then I'll share my 4P framework that you can refer to on a day-to-day. So that's our agenda for today. And then I'd ask that you stick around until the end. I have a stress kit of worksheets that I will offer to share with you, and the opportunity for free one-on-one coaching. So who am I, and how do I find myself giving a talk on stress and how to overcome overwhelm? The people who know me from 20 years ago would probably be surprised. I have to be honest. This would shock them. Because in my 20s, I was an overwhelmed, overworked professional in sales and marketing. I started in financial services. I worked on a trading floor. It is as insane as it is portrayed in the movies. And my life was like the movie Speed. I was living life in the fast lane. For those of you not familiar with that movie, the premise is basically that there's a bomb on a bus, and the bus has to stay above 60 miles per hour. Otherwise, it's going to blow up. And that's what I wondered. I wondered, oh my God, I'm going so fast, and I'm feeling pretty out of control. But if I slow down, am I going to blow up? But to be honest, I wasn't sure what I was really going to lose, because I was exhausted and I was unsatisfied and I was pretty unhappy on the inside, despite the fact that everyone thought I was doing so well, and career-wise, from that metric, I was quite successful. But to myself, to the things that really mattered, I knew this wasn't what I wanted. I wanted out, and I knew it was time to get off the bus. So I picked up and moved to Boulder, which was really bizarre to most people I knew in New York. They didn't understand why I would leave New York when I was doing so well. I grew my second company for acquisition. I endured a series of startup layoff cycles, and I co-founded a company. So I'm a little type A. For those of you who don't know me, I have a lot of ambition, and I try to fit in a lot. And to some extent, that was part of my problem. But what changed when I moved to Boulder is that I found yoga. I started doing yoga at the end of my time in New York. And I got really serious about it. And yoga taught me to slow down. And that when I slowed down, I tuned in. I was able to listen, to know what my mind and my body needed. I started to pay more attention to my self-care, to sleep and nutrition, stress management and exercise. And wow, I felt amazing. It made a huge difference. And I had so much energy, much better than before. And I was able to channel that energy into my career, as well as life outside of my career, which was starting to have much more balance than it had in the past. And then, like all stories in mountain towns start, I met a guy. And he offered to move to Boulder or to Denver. And instead, I suggested that I move up to the mountains to Breckenridge, where I live now. And I needed to reinvent myself. And I knew right away that based on the dramatic shift that had happened to me, that I wanted to focus on wellness, that I wanted to help others do what I had done, to help others feel better and be better in the world. So I examined a number of schools and educational opportunities, and I found Duke Integrative Medicine's coaching program and did that. And I have not looked back. I loved it, and I love what I do. I love helping people get out of their own way, find the small steps that make a big impact, and help them feel better and do more. And not necessarily do more tasks, but be more effective in the world. So I overcame overwhelm, and now I help other people do that by sharing some of the things I learned at Duke and the things I learned from my own experiences about self-care, about mindfulness, about behavior change, about healthy habits. So today I want to start with how do we wrap our arms around this problem of stress and overwhelm, of anxiety. It's a lot to deal with. And it's different for each of us. So to start, I want us to try to identify for ourselves what are our own unique stress patterns. So we're going to start by breaking down what is stress. And Psychology Today says that stress is the psychological perception of pressure as well as the body's response to it. So both an external factor and an internal physiological one. And I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that stress is a mental construct. It's our perception of pressure. And think about that for a minute. It's in our mind. I think that's pretty profound. It's in our mind. So we're going to talk about mindfulness in a minute, and we'll explore how to unwrap that. In small doses, stress is actually a good thing. It's helpful. It motivates us. It boosts performance. But that's only in small doses. And when stress is a positive factor, it's called eustress. E-U-S-T-R-E-S-S. However, the problem for most of us is that we live in this go, go, go world, a fast-paced lifestyle, and we go for extended periods of time stressed out. And that's called chronic stress, when we don't give our bodies a chance to reset. And that's when stress has a negative impact on our health and wellness, on our well-being. So I wanted to take a minute for a quick biology lesson. Our nervous system has two main parts. The sympathetic nervous system is responsible for our fight or flight response. Our fight or flight response is when our body perceives a threat. That threat can be where we're out on a hike and we see a bear, or it can be, public speaking, which is one of the biggest fears of most people. And when that happens, our body produces a stress hormone called cortisol. And our body releases this stress hormone into our bodies. It stimulates the production of cortisol. And cortisol is this trigger that stimulates a host of other effects. But suffice it to say, it puts our body in overdrive, in a high gear. The alternate of our sympathetic nervous system is the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for our rest and digest state. That's our state of equilibrium. When we're calm, cool, and collected, that's rest and digest. But we're not recalibrating to that balanced state the way we're supposed to be. We're living in this constant stimulation of our fight or flight state. And that's why so many of us are so unwell. That's why there's so much disease. 70 to 80% of all doctors' visits can be attributed to stress. 70 to 80%. That is a monster number. So like I said, stress is a huge topic, and it's pretty amorphous. So how can we break it down? Dr. Carl Albrecht defines 4 types of stress, and we'll go through all of these. There's time stress, anticipatory stress, situational stress, and encounter stress. Time stress is self-explanatory. I'm stressed that I don't have enough time. And an example is, I'm stressed that I won't have enough time for all of the things I have to do in the next hour. And we try to do too many things. We're not setting ourselves up for success. Time stress. I think this will resonate with most of you. The next type of stress is not, anticipatory stress. I'm stressed about something in the future. So this is the first webinar I've ever done. And I was a little nervous about it. Will the technology work? Will the audience be engaged? I'm used to doing events in person. I can see people's faces. Are they interested? Anticipatory stress. The next type is situational stress. I'm stressed about a situation that is beyond my control. So one person a couple of weeks ago, she's a Canadian who just got married, and she's really worried about immigration. She can't really do anything about it. It is beyond her control. And with the current administration and immigration, it's understanding why she's anxious about it, why it's taking over her thoughts. Situational stress. The last type is encounter stress. I'm stressed about my relationship with this person or group. A lot of us can think about family gatherings, and it's stressful for us. That's a great example. Will this person be inappropriate like they always are? Will this person try and talk at me for the next 3 hours? And we find that in work situations too. Sometimes when different groups work together, different teams, there's strain. Sometimes we have one dominant employee on our team who tries to take over and boss people around. That's encounter stress. So I alluded to something with situational stress about control. Do you have control over this or that type of stress, or is it beyond your control? The thing you can control is how you respond. How you respond to stress is in your control. So, what stress types are you? Like personality tests, we usually have 1 or 2 dominant traits. Which of these do you resonate with? Time, anticipatory, situational, or encounter? And just make a mental note. Stress is unique to you. What causes stress for me is different than what causes stress for you. And how each of us experiences stress is different, is unique. But all of us experience stress at some time. And I think most of us underestimate how profound an effect it has on our well-being. So that's what I'd like to talk about next, is how stress affects us. So I'd love to hear from you. How does stress affect you? So text in. Physical effects, mental effects, emotional, behavioral. You tell me. Do you eat too much or not eat at all? Do you get really cranky? Are you guys sleeping? Michelle,
there are some. All of them are affect people physically, mentally, emotionally. Physical is a huge one.
So what are the effects? Tell me what specific effects happen to you. Do you get cloudy?
Cranky and irritable.
Cranky and irritable.
Tired, you just want to veg on the couch.
Lazy, lack of motivation.
Exhausted and fatigued.
Yes.
Anxiety, you don't sleep well.
Don't sleep well. And some people, all they want to do is sleep.
Right. Eat too much, drink too much.
Yes.
Somebody ends up cleaning their teeth a lot, which may not be a bad thing.
Wow. Okay. So that may be a compulsive behavior. Impulsive and compulsive behaviors happen.
General lack of motivation.
Okay. So that's a lot. That's a lot of different types of symptoms. And I've taken these apart and shared a bunch of different symptoms. So I think one of the challenges of stress is that we may have things that we feel that are stress related that we don't even attribute to stress. So let's break it down. So physically, and we heard some of these, but aches and pains, rapid breathing, lack of energy, higher blood pressure, trouble sleeping, loss of sex drive, immunity, skin issues, stomach aches. Those are all physical effects of stress. Mentally, poor concentration and forgetfulness, bad judgment, making poor decisions, being generally negative, which often can lead to depression, worrying, burnout, decreased productivity for sure. Emotionally, moody and agitated, anxious and depressed. You lose your confidence in yourself, like you lose your mojo. Lack motivation, someone said. Intolerant. You have a short fuse often when you're stressed. And behaviorally, eating too much or too little, sleeping too much or too little, substance abuse, food cravings, craving sugar, carbs. Do you withdraw socially? Have sudden outbursts? Are you fidgety? This obsessive compulsive behavior. And when we talk about workplace wellness and safety, this is a big one, because when we are stressed, we're generally cloudy. We're not totally focused on what we're doing. We're a little distracted. And that's when accidents happen. So in the home, that could be you slicing your finger. That can be smashing your hand in a machine. So stress is potentially dangerous. A lot of minor fender benders are because we're not paying attention. We're distracted. We're thinking about something else. So think about, if you would, now that you know your one or two dominant stress types, often people find they have a dominant stress affect category. So maybe you experience things more in your body, physically, and maybe you're more emotional. Just think about what that is for you. And then I'd love to share in the text box, what would life look like if you could minimize these symptoms? How would life be better? How would you feel with less stress if we could minimize it? What makes reducing stress important for you? So Michelle, what do we have?
The first one that came in is that they'll be more social, less anxious, less irritable to friends and family, and all around just happier.
Yeah, totally.
Getting better sleep, feeling refreshed in the morning.
How great would that be? Feeling refreshed every day.
Not having a short fuse.
Most people around you will appreciate it.
More relaxed,
Without what?
energetic, enthusiastic, positive.
Positive, relaxed, energetic. That sounds pretty awesome to me.
Being able to consistently feel like yourself.
Feeling like yourself. So stress makes you feel not like yourself. That's a lot. So there are a lot of reasons that we want to deal with this. So just consider what your main types are and your main symptoms. And now let's figure out, what do I do to deal with it? Like I alluded, self-care is really important. When we get proper sleep and nutrition and we exercise consistently, we are much better able to manage our stress. It's like a snowball effect. If we eat too much garbage or sugar, we don't exercise, get the endorphins going. If we don't get enough sleep, our stress compounds. And it just gets worse and worse, and it takes us out of our sweet spot. So self-care is a critical piece. But what I actually think is the key to well-being is mindfulness. And there are a ton of studies about mindfulness now. And a lot of them are really complicated. And a lot of big corporations have integrated mindfulness into the workplace because they have found it makes that much of a difference. It's worth spending money on mindfulness programs. But mindfulness conceptually is very simple. It just means being mindfully aware, being in the present moment, with an open and curious mind, without judgment, being laser focused on the task at hand, and being deliberate about what you're doing and why you're doing it. The opposite of mindfulness is being on autopilot, being distracted. And a lot of us live in this world. We're on autopilot a lot of the time, and we're distracted. We're not fully focused on what we're doing. And technology has a big impact on this piece. All the buzzes and rings and beeps and the impulsive behavior around checking our phone takes us out of the task that we're supposed to be doing. Our brain can actually only pay attention to one thing at a time. But we often try to do a handful of things at a time. But what are we actually doing? Mindfulness actually changes our gray matter. It changes the way we process. So it helps us in our awareness, our concentration, and our decision making. So how do I do it? And there are a lot of ways to find mindfulness. You can find mindfulness out on a ski hill when you feel like you're one with the mountain and your senses are all heightened and you're totally in the moment. You're not thinking about what you need to make for dinner or what you forgot at the store. You are 100% present. But that's not that helpful when you're at the office. So what I like to help people find is mindfulness through breathing exercises. Just 2 minutes of deep diaphragmatic breathing can lower your stress hormone levels and restore you to your rest and digest state that's so often neglected. Just 2 minutes, that's it. So I'd like us to do an exercise all together right now. So sit up straight Uncross your legs if they were crossed and place the soles of your feet on the floor. Close your eyes, close your mouth, and breathe through your nose. Start to just focus on your breath. Is it shallow or deep? Is it even or a little constricted and jerky? Just notice and try to start evening it out. We're going to practice something called even breathing. And we just make our inhale the same length as our exhale. And we do that by counting. And counting helps us stay focused on the breath without starting to think about our lists or what we have to do later. Helps us pay attention to that one thing, and that one thing is the breath. So to start, place your one hand on your belly and one hand on your chest. And inhale through your nose and count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale through your nose. 4, 3, 2, 1. And now inhale to 5. Breathing so deeply into your belly that your belly expands into your hand. And then exhale over 5. And now do 6. And now do 5 more breaths on your own, in your own rhythm. And when you're done, just open your eyes and notice how you feel. That's different from 3 minutes ago. And I'd love for you to type in the text box and tell me what's different.
Calmer.
Calmer.
More clear-headed.
More clear-headed.
More relaxed.
Relaxed.
Focused.
Focused.
Content.
Content.
More relaxed. Feels the stress is releasing from the back.
You feel your back releasing, so reducing your physical symptoms of stress. So how cool is that? That took 2 minutes. That's it. 2 minutes can have such a big effect. I think that's pretty awesome. And most people find it surprising. So I would encourage you to experiment with this breath technique. Try it in the morning and in the afternoon. I have one client who, she was really wigged out all the time, and she's doing it as soon as she wakes up and right before bed. Other people prefer doing it mid-morning and mid-afternoon. So just play with it. See what feels good for you. But just do it the exact same way in as little as 2 minutes. It will help. It will help slow you down. Try it at the bank or at the market or in the lift line for people that can't figure out how to count or don't understand what alternate means when you're starting to just get like your blood boiling. Just take some deep breaths and notice how is your concentration afterward. You'll be blown away. There's a significant change that happens. And researchers are actually documenting it with brainwaves. And that I really start to geek out on this stuff. I think it's just super cool. So you can develop your mindfulness. It's a skill, and if you practice it, you'll get better. And you'll be able to concentrate for longer periods of time and be more emotionally aware. And what starts to happen is you start to get more compassionate to yourself and to others. You'll start to feel a lot more connected to people. And you'll notice. You'll feel it. It feels different. And what will start to happen is you'll start to find that quiet place more easily. Did any of you find it annoying or agitating to do this breath work? It's okay. When I started to do yoga and they would tell me to sit and just get quiet for a few minutes at the beginning of class, man, that was so agitating to me. I couldn't stop fidgeting. It was hard to go from overdrive to first gear. I couldn't do it. So if that happened for some of you, it's okay. That's normal too. And a little bit of practice will help. And it will become easier. And it will become easier pretty quickly. That girl I mentioned who is doing this now, the first time she did it, she was like going out of her skin. And now she's doing it on her own volition and enjoying the benefits and feeling the results of it. So just give yourself a little bit of space and practice it and see what happens. And as it gets easier, take a longer breath, count to 7 or 8, and add a minute at a time. Go from 2 minutes to 3, 3 to 4, and the results will only get better. And the other thing I want to share with you is there's a resource, there's an app called Insight Timer, and Insight Timer has all different types of meditations. Some that people like in particular are for before bed. And there's this really soothing voice and often some soothing music. And they'll be labeled by before bed or kindness or compassion. Some have a voice, some just have background ambient music, but you may want to experiment with that. And they say how much time they have. I do think the easiest thing is this breath work. It helps you stay focused on the breath and is short and sweet and very effective. So, mindfulness. The next piece is time management, which really is broken down into what we do and what we don't do. And we're not setting ourselves up for success. We're trying to do too many things. So one thing I started to realize was I cannot do it all. So everyone say that with me. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. I cannot do it all. The Pareto principle is the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule is that 80% of the effects come from 20% of the effort, of the input. We often see this in client revenues. So we'll say 20% of our clients produce 80% of our revenues. That's a common 80-20 rule observation. But what I notice, and another way to look at it, is 20% of my effort leads to 80% of my effect. Just 20%. It's a small bit of what I do that actually has impact. And I think what happens, and why we often get so overwhelmed, is we get bogged down in the other 80% of what we're doing. So we've got to clear the clutter. That 80%, it's the time-sucking tasks. Tasks that don't have impact. Tasks that you generally don't like doing. And tasks that aren't consistent with your goals. So we need to make more space. I want us to figure out the things that we are not going to do so that there's more space for the things that are important, for the things that are meaningful. So the key questions to figure this out are, what must I do versus what should I do? And what can I do at a later date, and what can I eliminate altogether that won't really affect the bottom line? And I would ask you to look critically at what you think you must do versus what you think you should do. Because I think sometimes we delude ourselves with what is critical and what isn't. So take time this afternoon or tomorrow before you start next week and just reassess. What is your key role? If I asked you what the 3 tasks are that have the most effect to your job, I'm sure you know what those are. The most important things you do. What if you could spend more time focusing on those things? You'd feel a lot better about what you were doing. So take it from Kenny. You've got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Know when to walk away and know when to run. What are you going to do and what are you going to cut out? I've taken some business classes in my education, and General Electric is a big case study in a lot of business classes. GE is in a ton of markets. They sell things as diverse as light bulbs and kitchen appliances to medical equipment. And what they do is, if they are in the top 3 products in the category, they stay in it. If they're not, they're 4 or below, they get out of the category. They exit altogether. If they don't have one of the best toasters, they're not going to sell toasters because it's not worth it. And it's taking time away from tasks that have more impact. And I think we need to adopt this. Seth Godin wrote The Dip. He's a marketing and business author. And he calls this strategic quitting. And I call this the secret sauce of stress management. It's be strategic about what you get out of so that you can be strategic about what you stay in. So think about that. Be strategic about what you can get out of so that you can be strategic about what you stay in. So give a little thought to your job, to the things that are most important to you, to the things that have the most impact. And to put this in perspective, I have my 4P framework. pause, plan, prioritize, and practice. And each day you can think about the 4 Ps and just remind yourself, you've got to pause. You've got to take a time out. You've got to recalibrate. You've got to slow down from the go, go, go. It's like a motor on overdrive. It's going to start to smoke. It's going to kill you. Right? You've got to stop and breathe. What are you doing and why? Is it on the critical path? You've got to find focus. And then plan. I know for me, I have both personal and professional goals for the year, every year. And I break them down over the quarter, and I break those goals into tasks, and I put them on a calendar. And the only way I can accomplish them is to work backwards and break them down over weeks and days. The only way I was ready for this webinar was to work backwards and know that I needed to plan the content. I needed to build the deck. I needed to prep to make sure my timing was right. So know what you're going to do and schedule it. And a lot of us are really terrible at scheduling. Things take longer than we think. So you've got to leave some extra time. Leave more space in your calendar instead of scheduling things back to back all day. Scheduling some space is a great way to expect the unexpected. Because things are always going to come up that you didn't think of. Or some new project, or your peer needs something tomorrow by end of day. So schedule 2 hours each day of just empty time. All of a sudden, you'll find things go a lot more smoothly. I promise. It works. And then the last is prioritize. What else is going to compete for your time and energy? Have a plan B, a contingency plan. How will you stay accountable to yourself, your family, your team, your boss? And practice. Every day is a new adventure. And sometimes things go according to plan, and sometimes not so much. So start to notice what's working for you and what isn't. When do you feel stress? Is it seasonal? Is it what time of day? Is it because you didn't make time to eat? You've got that hangry thing going on. Have some healthy snacks in your desk. Some nuts and seeds, some fruit, so that you can manage it, so that you don't lash out at somebody because you didn't make the time. And then assess and refine. What are you doing right, and what could you be doing better? So today we've gone over how to identify your stress, what types, what effects, mindfulness. I encourage you to experiment with breathing. Strategic quitting. What are you going to cut out? And the 4 Ps, pause, plan, prioritize, and practice. So I'd love to hear from you. Which part has been most useful to you? What did you like best? What resonated for you? Anyone?
Nothing's coming in yet, but I can jump in. I think for me, I like the idea of strategic quitting. I think it's really easy to just say yes to everything. and just adds a lot to your plate. And it's important to also learn how to say no.
Yeah, more Nancy Reagan, just say no.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Somebody said it's the breathing. It's always really good.
Breathing.
Mindfulness, breathing exercise. The idea of identifying different types of stress.
Yeah, finding your pattern. Mm-hmm. Just starting to notice. That's new for a lot of people.
Somebody also suggested another great app for meditation is called Headspace.
Yes, I've heard of that. So yeah, check Headspace. Awesome. So here's the thing, and I know we're coming up on the last 5 minutes. If we can manage our stress for ourselves, we start to be a lot nicer. That crankiness goes away. And we're not only better at the office and at home, but we're easier to be around. And if we can get most of us doing a little bit of strategic quitting and breathing, all of a sudden our workplaces have a much better attitude and a better energy. And we're more excited to work with each other. And that's how we create a happy, healthy workplace. And same thing with our home life. You know when you come home and you just had a bad day, and then you're racing around cooking and you cut your finger and then you pour the lemon in it and, then your kids start screaming and, it's this ripple effect. When we take care of ourselves and we manage our stress and our self-care, there's a positive ripple effect. And everybody can see it and feel it, and the energy is much better and the outcome is much better. So I hope that this has been useful and helpful for you. I'm glad that you found something out of this presentation. I'd love to connect. My website's amylieberman.com, Lieberman. Facebook and LinkedIn is Amy Lieberman Coach. I offer a stress tip of the week on Mondays. I've been sharing it on HealthLinks pages too on LinkedIn. And then Tuesdays each week I have a blog article. I've been getting a good amount of attention on those. So really practical things that all of us find in our day-to-day. And then plenty of information and articles about stress and healthy habits, worksite wellness, and behavior change. So thanks for attending. If you'd like to join my newsletter, I promise I don't bombard. My goal is to help stress, not add to it. But type in your name and email, and I'll subscribe you to my newsletter, and I'll email you my stress kit, which is a series of worksheets people have found really helpful. It repeats some of the things we've done today, as well as some other stuff. So name and email if you'd like my stress kit and to subscribe to my newsletter. And then the last piece before a little Q&A is one-on-one coaching. I'd like to gift a free one-on-one coaching session, a 30-minute consult where we can come up with a personalized plan for you. And the next slide in this deck, I have a number from 1 to 100. So pick a number from 1 to 100 and type it in the text box. So if you're interested in winning a free session, type in a number. Are you typing?
There are some people typing.
Okay, get your numbers in. The next slide, I'll announce the winner, and whoever's closest will win a one-on-one session. I will contact you to schedule it. We'll figure out who wins, and we'll get a name and email. Is everybody's number in? I
have 7.
All right. Well, the winning number is 37. Michelle, is anyone like 37 or close?
On the dot. Paige Stoyle is exactly at 37. That was her guess.
Paige, awesome. So if you would just text in your name and your email, I'll contact you and we'll schedule your one-on-one 30-minute session. I'll get that out today so that we can get it on the calendar next week or the week after, whatever works for you. And if any of you need help getting your stress under control or your wellness back in balance, I'm offering a 20% HealthLinks discount to all HealthLinks partners, vendors, and members through March and April. So something got a little screwy, I think, when we switched over to this machine, but 20%. It needs to be done manual. It's not advertised on my website, so it's just for people on this call. And if you want to share it with HealthLinks partners, vendors, and members. And if you don't really know what coaching is, or you just want to talk and understand more about what I do, I offer a free phone consult to answer your questions. So I'm happy to talk things out and see if you feel like we would be a good fit to work together before taking any money. And if you want me to come speak at your company, I've been speaking at companies and people are really finding it useful. I do different exercises like the breath exercise, depending on what you guys want me to focus on. So I'd love to come speak at your group. And maybe we have a few minutes for questions.
Yeah, if there are any last-minute questions for Amy, please go ahead and type them in. Amy, thank you so much. That was great. It's always a great time over the lunch hour to take a break and remind ourselves of what we can do to stress less throughout the day. So I appreciate you taking your time, and I appreciate everybody on the phone taking the time to join us as well. I don't see any additional questions coming in.
Okay. Well, if you think of anything, shoot me a note on one of the social media channels. My email again is Amy, A-M-Y, at amylieberman.com. Or shoot me a note on Facebook or LinkedIn. And I'm always happy to help and learn more about what's plaguing you about stress. And the more I've been doing this, the more I realize these things aren't unique to us. They're pretty common challenges. So the more we put it out, we realize it's not just me. And I think that's often really helpful.
That is definitely true. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much again. Amy, I sent you the list of people who signed up for your newsletter and the winner. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free, as Amy said, to reach out to her. You can also find my contact information at healthlinkscolorado.org. And my name is on the website in the contact area. So if you have any questions or ideas for other webinars, please feel free to reach out. I hope everybody has a fabulous day and enjoys this summer-like weather.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Michelle.
Bye. Thank you.